Hello guys, it is June wrap up, I believe. I won't lie, things are going to be a little chaotic, a little crazy for the next month or so. I just finished moving. You can't tell because my walls were bare anyways. But just finished moving, or still finishing moving, unpacking everything now. But I have to real quick do this so I can return some of these books and get less to unpack. So here's that. I read 11 books this month. These plus one other that my daughter currently has are going to be in a whole other video that I'm hoping to finish sometime here in the beginning of July. Not guaranteed, but hoping. So these aren't going to be mentioned, but these are 3, technically 4 of the books I read. Quick and easy ones. And then we have all of these plus one that I don't have because it's one of my own personal books that I own, and those are still packed down in the garage. So we're gonna get through it real quick. Like I said, hopefully this upcoming next month or two we can get newer videos that aren't just, again, wrap-ups. I don't like doing wrap-ups, so we'll see. But let's get started. They're gonna be completely out of order, so these aren't in the order that I read them, because it's just how it is. So first we're going to start with Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I have never read a V.E. Schwab, but I kept seeing her everywhere because she had her new book. I can't even remember. I think it was Bury of the Bones or something, right? It was a new book that came out from her, but I kept seeing everyone talk about her and love her. And I found this at the library and the second one. I only read this one so far, but this one was really interesting. But it was also a little dark and also a little confusing and stuff. And like some of the parts of it were quick and easy to get, and some of it was just like, And like the way it ended was a little bit of like the story didn't get resolved, basically, is what I'm confused about. Like, it's following a guy named Victor. He escapes prison, and he's out to get revenge on an old college friend, classmate named Eli. Him and Eli were really close in college, and they were studying EOs, which is extraordinaries, which are people who have like superpowers. And they were trying to figure out how they got them, what is like a deciding factor, what helped. And they figured it out, and then they were testing to see like if they could recreate and become an EO. And so they end up later on doing it. Victor, though, he has it where his power accidentally killed someone, and the Eli guy technically didn't like feel comfortable with that and turned him in. So Victor went to prison. Eli got to live life. Victor's pissed off, goes through 10 years of prison, finally escapes, and is out to go get Eli. And Eli, you find out, is going and getting rid of all the other EOs that he can find with the help of some other people as well. But it's a little confusing at the end because, again, Victor technically, again, doesn't fully get revenge, but he kind of does. So I gave this one 3.25s. Again, it wasn't bad, little confusing, little dark, just on the side. Then, I was so excited about this. I get to finally read Scythe and Sparrow, which is the third and final book of the Ruinous trilogy. I read Butcher and Blackbird long ago. Leather and Lark, I think, was recently. If not, it was like the end of last year. I think it was more recent. But I was super excited about this. But I didn't do the tandem read where you read like this and then like up to a certain point you read Butcher and Blackbird and Leather and Lark, right? I didn't do that. So I just read this as is, which, knowing it's a tandem read, I kind of can see, but this one like has it where it's like you would read like several chapters of this book probably first before you go and read the others, which kind of is weird and hard. But yeah, I actually really enjoyed this one. I think I gave this one, what was it, a 4.5. It wasn't as good as I would say Leather and Lark almost. I don't know. Like, that's hard. So this one has to follow, I think his name was Fionn. I was about to call him Finn, but Fionn and Rose. And technically you get to see clips or pieces of them in Butcher and Blackbird and Leather and Lark because, again, it's part of it. That's why there's the tandem read. But Rose basically is a circus worker. She gets hurt, but she gets hurt because she's trying to hurt other people, but she's not very good at it. And then she goes to Fionn, and Fionn basically takes her in. And he's a doctor at a small little rural town. He's trying to get away from his past and stuff because he had a dark past, as of course his brothers in the other two books. So I really liked it. It was a little slow burn, or a very good slow burn story. It took its time. But like I said, there's some parts where it's a little annoying. It's a little like, why? So, but I overall liked it. I also did like the epilogue. It was funny and weird and stuff. And it does kind of, I think, show that the author, Bryn Weaver, it shows what her next story is about, which she's already kind of shown a little bit. Like, she's shown the cover, which love her covers. But her next story is she's shown the cover, and you get to see a little bit of like who it's kind of following. You don't know fully, obviously, but you get an idea of who it's going to be about. So I like that. Next is the Woodsmoke Women's Book of Spells. I'm not gonna lie, this book dragged on for me. I gave it a 3-star. It was really close to being lower than that, to be honest. Like, it was taking me a moment. Like, I was interested, but I was also getting really frustrated because basically this is following Carrie. She left Woodsmoke Mountains 10 years ago, which is funny because I feel like all of these books, it's always like 10 years, like stuff like that. But she left Woodsmoke Mountains 10 years ago. She has to come back because her grandmother died and gave her the cabin and like some stipulations or something about like, hey, if you can do this and do that, you can do what you want, right? You can sell it, you can do this, but you have to meet these. Her, I guess it would be great aunt still lives there. And like, they have like, they're not like witches, but they have this book that like helps them and stuff and like guides them and has stories and stuff. And they have this mountain where you got to do certain things or else it like curses you and stuff. And like, Carrie basically left, and you find out she ran away on her wedding day. She was supposed to marry this one guy, but she thought the guy and her were gonna leave the town because she wanted to leave a long time ago because she didn't fit in. And he kind of was like, no, I got a house and I got an internship, so no. And he didn't tell her. But then you find out that there's some stuff that kind of messed with it. Her aunt or great aunt messed with it to where she basically fell in love with this guy even though he wasn't hers to begin with. And then you find out that her best friend also kind of messed up with it, trying to make it where they both stayed because she knew they were planning on leaving and she didn't want them to leave, so she asked the great aunt to help, and the great aunt did it, but then it didn't work. And then the best friend and the ex got together and had a kid, and so when the Carrie girl comes back, the best friend's worried that the ex is gonna go back to her and all this other stuff. And it's weird, but it's annoying because in a way it's like one of those things where it's like, if people would stop meddling in this girl's life, this Carrie girl's life, I think she would have been so much happier and so much better off. And it's just so annoying. And then there is a mystery part of it, which I think is what helped keep me interested, because there was this guy who would keep coming and helping her with her thing. But then her great aunt is like, oh, you can't trust it. It's a shadow. He's going to like take you away from me forever. And like, that's the biggest thing, is the great aunt like is so worried about her going away forever and stuff. And so it was interesting, but it was also so slow. And like I said, so infuriating with how many people just kept messing with this Carrie girl's life that she didn't even get to like decide on her own. And I think that's one thing that like bugged me so bad throughout this whole book, was that. So This was, like I said, a 3-star. This is my lowest rated book of the month. So, and then we have Perfectly Wicked. This one I gave a 3.25. This one was pretty interesting. My kids are doing something and something fell and I don't trust it. I don't know. Okay. I'll check on them here in a second. Both of them are in there. So the sooner I finish this, the sooner I can go. Basically, this one has it where there's, what's her name? Celeste, no. Winter. No. Holly. Holly is the one we're following. Winter is one of her sisters. There's going to be more of this, I already know, because it does have a part, I think, talking about Winter and stuff. But Holly and her sisters, and I think it's her great aunts as well, own this apple orchard, and it's failing, unfortunately. They're about to go bankrupt. They're trying to figure something out. This guy named Grimm, Connor Grimm, comes, and he wants to do a story because he thinks their orchard is haunted, but he also has proof or evidence that shows other stuff, like possibly magic. And so he wants to go. He tries to convince her, hey, let me come do my little ghost business stuff here. And you get paid, you get money to help you with your failing orchard. She's hesitant because, again, they're using magic to help with their apple orchard, and they don't want him to accidentally catch it, out them, all this other stuff. And it's really interesting and stuff, but it's also annoying with some of it. And there's one thing that I did like where instead it's not like actual witches, but it's like wickeds. So it's saying that witches are good and they counteract the evil, and wickeds, they are kind of evil, but not like necessarily, but they have it where their powers and stuff are more about destruction and bad stuff. But Holly and her family are trying to use this bad magic that they have to do good. So Holly controls the weather, so she's able to prevent droughts in their orchard. She tries to do this stuff where it prevents floods and all this other stuff. And Winter is her sister. Her sister sees things like visions and stuff, so she tries to use that. One of the aunts has it where she can like do like something to where it like removes poison, I think. No, that's the other sister. The other sister can remove poisons and stuff. So it was interesting, but also like really slow and weird and just not up to par. Next, we have Bull Moon Rising. My daughter picked this one. She said, oh, look, it's so pretty, colorful, and sprayed edges. And I was like, okay, cool, right? I was like, interesting. This one was interesting. This one I did give a 3.75. It was pretty good. It dragged on in the beginning. What is her name? I forgot her name. Aspeth. That's why. Aspeth is a part of a household that's like one of those rich ones, but her father has a gambling addiction and like got rid of all their treasures. And so she is worried that the other households are going to try to take over and cause a war and then like kill her family and everyone else. Well, kill her, her father, and then all the servants and stuff. So she runs away to go join this guard that like hunts and looks for artifacts. And she has a servant who comes with her. And they're looking for stuff. They're going to go join. But since they're women, they're not going to be taken serious. There's Taurians, which are bull creatures that also work in the guard, but they're mostly used to go and like do rescue missions. They're not taken seriously either because they're seen as like the muscles, right? They're not smart. But the one that is in here, his name is Hawk. He has to stay and he has to help because every guild in the thing has to have a certain number of recruits to keep going, to keep finding artifacts, to keep them running and keep them afloat. And he's trying to help his guild master lady whose name I forgot. I don't remember what her name was, but he's trying to help her. And she is the only female one who's a guild master, and she was well known, but she's a drunk. So he helps. He gets a bunch of basically females and a turtle, I think it is, or Slytherin thingy. And they're supposed to do this stuff to work and do it. And like I said, there's challenges and stuff. But basically he has it where he's trying to do that, but he has this thing called a bull moon rising, which is basically mating season for him and his species. And he's like, doesn't want to do it with like random people. And she needs a guardian, so they agree to get married, and she agrees to help him so she can go and be in the guild. And yeah, it's interesting, but it was also weird and annoying because of her. Like, she wants to do all this stuff, but she was not trained to it because she's rich and like not used to doing that stuff. So it wasn't bad. It was different, and I would read the next one. The ending was probably the best part of that book by far. But yeah. Next is Deep End. This one I got at the library as well, and I was like, yes. And I read it, and I won't lie, I devoured this. I know a lot of people don't like this one because it's a lot of spice. And like I said, Ali Hazelwood does a lot of STEM and romance and stuff. And this one was college and swimming. And it did have some STEM, but it was more also too on the spicy side. So there is that. But I really enjoyed this, especially with Scarlett and what's the boy's name? Lucas. It was interesting. I liked it. It was funny and cute and sweet. And yeah, so I really like this. I gave this one a 4-star. I read this one really quickly, loved it, didn't want to put it down. So good, but it was also one of those things too where like miscommunication, and like there was a friend who was dating the Lucas guy, but then like they had been dating for a long time and they were like sweethearts, high school sweethearts kind of thing. And then she didn't like his ideas of kink and stuff, and Scarlett of course is into that kind of stuff. So then she confides in the friend, and the friend says, hey, you two should be together. But then they don't tell anyone that the friend and the boy broke up, and so they're having to do this behind each other's backs, and that part's annoying. And then the conflict of the friend, like once they find out that the friend did break up, and this and all that, and it's like, it's so infuriating. So there is that part that was annoying. That's why it wasn't higher. Yes, I loved it, but there's certain things in it that are just like, ooh. So that was a 4-star. And the last one is the one I don't have with me right now because it's in my book box full of my books, and that is A Court of Mist and Fury. I almost waited a whole year in between A Court of Rose and Thorns to read A Court of Mist and Fury, and I feel bad that I did. Everyone kept saying the second one is so much better, but like after I read the first one, I was just like, ugh, can it really be? And like, mind you, I knew some of the things. I knew that she wasn't with Tamlin and stuff. Spoiler alert if you haven't. But considering how long A Court of Mist and Fury and Court of Thorns and Roses has been out, you should probably know. But like I said, I was so, in the first one I was so like, I don't see why everyone hates Tamlin, right? Why they kept calling him Tampon and stuff. And then reading this book, you see why. And it's so annoying and it's so infuriating, and it's like, I don't blame her for wanting to leave and being done. And like Rhysand, like you get to see more of his side and like his way and stuff, because like in the first book he's portrayed kind of more evil and mean and cruel, but then in this book you get to see like kind of why he was that way, and it wasn't like real, it was just to protect those he cared about. So I gave A Court of Mist and Fury 5 stars. Love that book. It was my favorite by far. Couldn't wait to get the third one. Do have the third one, but I'm doing some other stuff first before I get to that, so I can't wait to do that. And mind you, I own, what is it, A Court of Frost and stuff. So there is that. But make sure to like and subscribe, guys. I gotta go do some more stuff, and I will see you guys next time. Let me know what you read and what you liked. Bye.